Hi everyone, welcome back. In this part of the Blender series, we are going to take a quick look at the user interface and get familiar with where everything is. If you are opening Blender for the first time, I know it can feel a bit overwhelming, but don't worry, we'll break it down together. Alright, let's start from the top bar. And the very left, you'll got the Blender logo. Clicking it, open the splash screen, that's the starter window, and also the About Blender info. Next is the file menu. Here you can start a new project, open existing ones, and save your work. You'll also find append option, which lets you pull object, materials, or other data from another Blender file. And you should know this is super handy when you want to reuse assets. This is also where you import and export different file formats, and of course quit Blender. Moving on, the editing menu is where you'll find preferences. This is important because when you want to install add-ons, for example Blender Kit, which I'll show you how to set up in future videos. Blender Kit is a free add-ons that gives you tons of models and materials ready to use. Then there is a render menu, which gives you quick access to render a single image, or you want maybe an animation. The Windows menu lets you open a new Windows if you want to work with multiple windows. And finally, the help menu, where you can access the manual, tutorials, and community links. That's pretty much the top bar in a nutshell. Alright, now let's move on to the workspace. The first thing is layout. That's the one we're in right now. Okay, this is the general workspace where you can do everything. You can do everything here. Next is modeling. You can also access it from the top up here in the corner. Yeah, this where you this is where we actually model our object. Yeah, you can press tab to switch between object mode and edit mode, and use Ctrl plus tab to access other object related modes. When we have sculpting, where we can use different brushes to deform our object. Let me show you. See how I can shape it like clay. Moving on, UV editing. This workspace lets you set how the face of your object are mapped onto a flat 3D surface. Okay, basically it tells Blender how to unwrap your model. Next, paint, texture painting. Okay, it's where we paint directly onto that 3D image. It's like painting the surface of your model. Then there's shading. This is where we define the material of our object. For example, I can change the color here, tweak some values, and make it look like a gold. Yeah, you see. Next up, animation. Here's how it works. I select an object, press I to insert a keyframe, and it records the position. Yeah. Then I move the timeline forward, change the position, and insert another keyframe. As you can see, the cube now moving when we play the animation. Yeah. Okay, next, rendering. Right now it's empty because we haven't recorded anything yet. Let's press F12. Okay, and there is our final image. Now this render will appear here whenever we view this workspace. After that, compassing. Think of it as adjusting and enhancing your render image. Okay, let's move on another. We have geometry nodes, which I'll cover in the details in the feature videos. And final, scripting. Here we can write Python code to automate or customize Blender's behavior. That's a quick overview of the workspace. Alright, let's check out the toolbar. First, we have the move, rotate and scale tools. This lets us position, rotate and resize object. Of course, there are shortcuts: G for move, R for rotate and S for scale. Next is the annotate tool. It's basically a pencil for drawing in the viewport. If you hold Ctrl while using it, you can erase. Then we have the measure tool for checking distance. And finally, the add object tool, which lets you place the custom shape into the scene, like this custom cube I am adding here. Now moving over the outliner. This is show all the object in our scene. Next, the properties panel. The first tab is tool settings. Then we have render properties, where we choose the render engine, for example Eevee or Cycle, each with its own feature. Below that, output properties, where we set the resolution, frame range and file output location for renders. Next, scene properties, nothing to change here for now. Under that, world properties. This is where we adjust the world background. Let's switch to render view and set the background to a sky texture. There we go, a realistic sky. Now let's switch back to solid view. Object properties come the next. Here you can adjust location, rotation and scale of your object. Then we have modifiers, for example the array modifier. It duplicates object in sequence, and bevel change the sharpness of edge. Particles are used for effects like hair or sparks. Physics handles simulation like water, fire and smoke. Constraints control how objects interact with each other. Object data properties. It gives detailed settings for the object's data type, for example mesh, curve or light. Material properties. It let us apply and edit the materials we create in the shading workspace. And lastly, texture properties. Here we can add image texture or particular materials, patterns to our materials. One more thing, Blender's interface is fully customizable. You can duplicate a window, split it, and merge it back together however you like. And that's our quick tour of Blender's interface. Now you know where to find the most important tools and settings. So you can jump right in and start creating. See you in the next video.